song for the Imps? How about a song for the Imps? There we go then. Come on, let's get some of the lads together. Let's have a go at the Imps song, yeah. Okay, you're on. Go on, fellas. Get around the piano. Let's have a good go. Come on, then. You ready? Come on, you lot. Go on, then. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The Imps are here to stay. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The Imps are here to stay. Lincoln City are the team, the Radiance is their name. Stinsel Bank is their home ground and football is their game. So come and cheer them on, you lads, support them all the way. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The Imps are here to stay. Oh, 'tis our...
Morning all. You know what? A couple of days ago I was in my garden, sprawled out on the sofa, sunshine, barbecue on, ice cold drink on the table. It was 3 or 4 days ago. Now I've got my hood up, and any minute now this live stream's going to go bellies up because the screen is just awash with water. You can't see it because the camera's down here, and I can't clean the screen or rub it, and with it being a touch screen, eventually it'll trigger something and something odd will happen. I don't know, like a covert picture from my roll will all of a sudden appear on there, and luckily I don't have any of my balls, so you don't need to worry about that. I don't know if I can even get who's on board on. I can. Morning Steve, hope you're well, my friend. Morning Sean, I hope you're well, and Connor as well. Luke Plange goal incoming this weekend. Well, I'm here to talk about Carlisle United this morning. Actually, I'm not meant to talk about Lincoln City. I'm going to kind of mention Carlisle United. I just want to do something, talk about something that's not West Ham tickets, if that's all right. I've just been on social media for a short while I was on the throne this morning, and you know what? Oh my lord, I thought we'd got past this willy waving contest of who's the biggest fan, but clearly not. Well, it's sold out, so if you haven't got a ticket, it's tough cookies, isn't it? I think the club do everything that they can, but there is an article coming on it later on today. It's going to be a relatively quick dog walk video, one because it's raining, and two because I've come this bizarre way. I'm actually just in the middle of a field at random. Dog's decided, you see him over there sneezing away, he's decided he wanted to come this way, so there we go. Charlie, you right, boy? Good dog. So Carlisle at home this weekend. Seems like ages since Bristol Rovers game, where victory was cruelly snatched from us late on, sloppy as well. And the same happened away at Northampton. And to be fair, the Northampton game probably the draw was, did us credit. Bristol Rovers game, I think we deserved to win. And it was interesting listening to Ali Maxwell, not the Top 20 podcast, talking about Lincoln, saying he wants to get on the Lincoln hype train. And we're doing well. Apart from the opening day defeat, we've looked good. He said they still haven't quite found the pattern for attacking yet. I thought that was really interesting. 6 goals at home. Okay, 2 penalties, but you've got to be in the area for a penalty. You've got to get in there. You've got to create an attack to be fouled. If we haven't created attacking, and by the way, I agree with him. I agree 100% with him. I don't think we have found our attacking pattern or our attacking stride. And we've scored 6 goals at home. And we've scored however many away, 2 at Northampton, 1 at Bristol Rovers. We've scored goals away from home, Shrewsbury as well. We've only drawn a blank in 2 games this season, off the top of my head. One of those was away at a Premiership side, a Premier League side, and the other one was Bolton on the opening day, which was always going to be tough. So we've scored in almost every game. We've got scorers across the board. I think the only area of the pitch that we haven't had goals from is our goalkeeper and our attackers. Our 2 strikers haven't scored. They've been creative, by the way. So we're in a position where we're talking about a Lincoln City side, rightly, that haven't found their stride in attack, just outside the playoffs, with more goals and more attacking threat in the first 2 league games than we saw perhaps in you could take a selection of any 5 games last season, and we probably didn't look as attacking across all 450 minutes as we have the 180 minutes so far this season. So I think that's really promising. The big test, water's dripping off my phone now. By the way, my apologies if I can't even see the screen properly. Just let me try and do something with the screen, people. Hang on 1 second. I might disappear for a minute. Just give me a moment. Have I disappeared? Who knows? Have I disappeared or am I back? Is it still recording? Am I back? Oh, here we go. Am I back now? Oh, I think I'm back now. Wow. Well, that didn't work at all. Hang on, I've lost my dog. Oh, he's over there. So there we go. Let me just put myself back on there. So actually, I think that this game. Am I back? By the way, can you all see me again now? It is still live streamer Steve Lee. Yes, Steve Leach. I'm back. Good, good, good. Yes, I think this game on Saturday is as much of a barometer as any of the others. And of course, it's easy to say that because every game's the next test. Every game is the next opportunity to make a point or to prove something. But this team had some stuff to prove through the course of the season and still does. Last season, we struggled against weaker teams. We did well against better teams. You could argue that Blackpool and Wycombe, despite having indifferent starts, are the better teams in the division. The sort of teams that we didn't do badly against last season. They're the teams we aspire to be around. So that was the test. The test was, are we at their level? Yes, we are. We have only briefly had the opportunity to test ourselves against the very top team in the division or the top teams. That will still come. And that's where we were really, really strong last season. And so it's where you would expect us this season again to kind of pick up at home. Teams at home is, or weaker teams at home is where we really struggled, I think, last season. And I remember the Cambridge game, particularly Morecambe, where we won 2-1, I think, on a cold Tuesday night and struggled a little bit. There was other teams that came to Sincil Bank that really frustrated us. I mean, you know, even going back a couple of years before Mark Kennedy, think about some of the smaller teams that came and turned us over at the bank, like Doncaster and Gillingham. Carlisle haven't had a good start to the season. They picked up a point on Saturday away at Stevenage, but with respect, they probably didn't deserve it. Steve Evans was probably right. I think that's the second time I've said that recently, which is really disappointing on my part. So it's a game that we should, in inverted commas, be winning. These are the games where we'll really be tested. And we've got two coming up in the next three. Cheltenham at home and Carlisle at home. Definitely games we should be winning. And win those. Portsmouth away is, and again, it's lazy punditry, but I'm good at it. Portsmouth away is a free hit. Take 6 points from 3 games, you're happy. So if you can beat those two lower, supposedly lower teams, I'm talking not in terms of particularly club stature, because Carlisle have the potential to be a bigger club and have certainly been in the past. But beat those teams that you would expect to be beating in the context of this season. Then you can go to Portsmouth and go, play our game. Don't matter. Go there. Spoil it. Play defensive. Do what we did at Sheffield United. Get cheap or a point. Fair enough. But these are the games. These are the big games that we've got on Saturday. These are the ones where, that separate us from being 11th last season to 7th last season. If we had the sort of record against the bottom 4 or the bottom 6 that we'd had against the top 6, would have been knocking on the doors of the playoffs last season. That tells me how weak League One was last season. I've seen a few teams in League One this season. I've done a little bit of research. I've watched some games and some highlights through the Real EFL. Nobody's impressed me consistently. That's the truth. Nobody has. We haven't impressed me consistently. We didn't impress me for periods against Northampton. We didn't impress me for long period against Bristol Rovers. But we are as impressive as any team that I've seen. Even Bolton, who I thought were excellent on in a couple of their games recently, haven't impressed me on a consistent basis. Carlisle certainly haven't. So I think that's going to be really interesting. Really interesting indeed. And think about that. If we haven't hit our attacking stride just yet. We've got Danny Mandrew nominated for Player of the Month for 3 goals and 2 assists. You've got Ted Bishop, who many were writing off at the beginning of the season, me included, who's come back in and looked like a real attacking force. You've got Tyler Walker still perhaps working his way up to full match fitness and match sharpness. You've got Ben House yet to get off the mark this season, constant thorn in the side. Got Rico Hackett, who I think so far has been the signing of the summer. The midfield are beginning to chip in. Arah and Hamilton both scored goals already this season. Could you say the same last season about Max Sanders and Matty Virtue? Matty Virtue got a couple, yes. If you could start throwing 4 or 5 goals in from your midfielders in a season, Luis Fiorini style, you put 2, 3, 4 goals apiece on your centre half. And bear in mind, I think, Sean Rowan already scored, Pawdy already scored, Adam Jackson already scored. 1 or 2 for your fullbacks, by the way, who are getting forward and attacking. It's exciting times. Now, Ben does raise a good point here. Do I recall correctly, Walker's unlikely for the weekend? My understanding was that Walker and House could both be unlikely for the weekend. Both strikers out. Rico Hackett can play centrally. Danny Mandroyu. It might mean we go 3-5-2 again. Impressive in the second half against Bristol Rovers, not so much in the first, perhaps. But then there's still that flexibility. And it's actually quite strange to feel this level of positivity. But I think it's reflected, and it kind of ties back into those West Ham tickets. And I've got an article part written, which I'll finish on my lunch break. Kind of says, how do you know if your club's doing well? Is it league position? Is it wins? Is it players being sold? Is it money being spent? No. It's willy waving on social media when you get a big cup draw about who the biggest fan is. Because everybody wants to be a part of whatever we're on, the journey we're on. Okay, it's West Ham at home. It's always going to attract bodies. But the fact that there's so many people who have got silver memberships, bronze memberships, there's so many people that have bought into this prior to West Ham being drawn. You know, one of the arguments I saw was I was at Sheffield United and Notts County. Now, what was there? 3,500 at both of those games. That would have been a home attendance at one point. I quite like it. I think the last time I properly saw this kind of battle of the I ams on social media was the FA Cup run in 2016-17. Do I think we're going to be as successful as that? Of course not. Of course not. We're a bigger team now. We're a different beast now. We're playing in a different playground. You know, back in 2016-17, we were a big fish in a little pond and we just kept getting nibbled by the little fish. Now we're one of the kind of medium-sized fish in the League One pond. But in order to become a bigger fish, we need to be winning games like Saturday, and I can't stress this enough. But I think whatever team we put out, there should be enough in that team to turn over the Carlisle team as they're playing at the moment. And I don't mean a disrespect to Carlisle. I really don't mean a disrespect to them at all, because I think they'll be a decent side, and I think that they'll have enough to stay out of the bottom 4 come the end of the season. Will they have enough to stay out of it by Christmas? I don't know. I think they'll be in a relegation battle. My dog has decided he wants to go all the way to the end of the field. Go on then. I've just been there myself. He couldn't be asked to catch me up. And then Cheltenham as well. It's been nice to have the break. It will have been brilliant, I think, for Mark Kennedy to get the boys together for a couple of weeks with no Mickey Mouse Cup game. No big, you've got the big cup game to look forward to. West Ham won't even be on their radar just yet. And I tell you something, you give me a win against West Ham against a win against Carlisle, and I'm not just being trendy. You take the win against Carlisle now and the 3 points. And maybe the club wouldn't. Maybe the cup run gives you a little bit of exposure. It could be argued that maybe our cup run that took us to Southampton last season helped swing Ethan Arahan. Who knows? It's possible. You raise the profile of your club. Maybe I undersell a cup run. I certainly used to undersell the League Cup. And I had not an argument. My mate Matt, as we were leaving Bramwell Lane, said, you know, I have a tendency to break football down as a business. So I say the EFL trophy is better because we get more money for it, which ultimately means we can progress ourselves on the pitch and move towards the championship. And Matt, quite correctly, I always stand corrected, said to me, you've got too much of a habit of taking the emotion out of football. And whilst it's okay to do that when you're analysing performances and when you're analysing things, you have to realise there is emotion in football. There is. And getting a penalty shootout victory at Sheffield United where we get as much as we get for beating Manchester City's kids in the under-21 trophy or whatever. Sorry, there's a massive plane going over somewhere. So there's more passion in the Sheffield United win. We'll remember the Sheffield United win for years to come. We'll remember a group stage win against Mansfield Town. No, we won't, even though it earned us potentially more money in the long term. Or it certainly earned us similar money. I don't know what we earned from Sheffield United. West Ham, we might go out. 10,800 at the bank. A reigning European champion coming to Sincilbank. I'm not sure the last time that happened. I'm not sure if Spurs had won the Cup Winners' Cup or something the year before, or was it the same year they came to us, something like that. But anyway, very, very rarely happens. So it's about the emotion, I suppose. And I'm straying over to talking about West Ham, and it's going to be really, really hard, I think, not to for supporters. But we've got, and it's a Danny Cowley thing, isn't it? We've got cup finals before that. That's essentially what he used to call every game, wasn't it? Every game's a cup final because you get 3 points. And I think the point, I've lost my dog again. I think the point at the moment is when you've got Ali Maxwell on not the top 20, he's not talking about West Ham, he's not talking about tickets, he's not talking about who the bigger fan is, he's looking at Lincoln City from a purely analytical point of view. He takes the emotion out of football because that's what they do on a podcast. You take the emotion out and you look at the raw facts. He's got no allegiance to Lincoln City. And he wants to get honours as a promotion candidate 6 games into the season. And I'll be honest, I'm finding it hard not to get a little bit carried away. I really am. Because the 3 games that we haven't won this season, we were leading in normal time. Yes, we let the lead go. Yes, I get that. But the fact is, we were leading those games going into 90 minutes. That's a huge positive. Taking the Bolton one out of it, you're seeing the sort of run of form that is promotion material. And I think if you break our points tally down now and then you average it out over a full season, we would be kind of playoff candidates, even though we're sitting in 8th now. There's teams above us who have played more games, that sort of thing. And with the way that we're scoring goals as well, are we genuinely playoff candidates? Forget the Carabao Cup, forget the EFL trophy that we'll try and do as well in as we can, forget the FA Cup where we want a little run, ideally, forget all of that. Are we promotion candidates? It's a hard question to answer, and let me scroll down. I don't know if anybody here has said it, and unfortunately I can't. There's some ticket comments, so I'll come on to those in a minute. The answer to the question for me is I'll tell you after Carlisle. Because if we go out in a game that we should be winning against a team who will likely come and look for a point and win, then it's going to be hard after 7 games not to say we should be in the mix if we can keep it up. We've got a deep enough squad, hopefully, to avoid an injury crisis. We're in one really now with our 2 strikers doubtful, but we're in all 3 strikers with Jack Vale. So if we were to come out of the Carlisle game with 3 points, you've got to say we are early promotion candidates. You can be a promotion candidate 10 games in and fall away after 20. When was the last time genuinely we were promotion candidates? Not last season, not the season before, but when we were in the playoffs, when we did, when we were title candidates. When was the last time we were promotion candidates in the 3rd tier with fans in the stadium and no wage cap, etc.? Probably have to go back to the last time we played West Ham in the cup for that, wouldn't you? What, 82? 81, 82? Was it the same season that we missed out with Fulham, or was it the season after, 82, 83 possibly, where we were leading the division by miles and then crumbled after Christmas through financial issues? I always look back at history. I think history is fascinating because it does add context. People say it's a different game, it's a different this, it's a different that. I look at the last time that Lincoln City were genuine promotion candidates in the 3rd tier outside of COVID times. And that's always kind of the outlier, I think, because that COVID season was great, but we weren't there, and it was a different game altogether. So outside of COVID times, and you have to go back 40 years. Win against Carlisle, win against Cheltenham, and maybe, just maybe, for the first time in those 40 years, we can seriously say Lincoln City are one of the top teams in League One outside of COVID times. And I don't want to put that to the detriment of Michael Appleton, of course, because I still believe he did a good job in putting us there, but it was a very, very different game. Right, let's have just a quick look, because I just want to get back to tickets, and I don't want to talk about tickets too much. I don't want to give that debate too much air. But Jason Gill makes a point. Good morning, Gary. Do you think the club could have linked a ticket to Carlisle My missus just messaged me. This is a raincoat. You wear it when it's raining. I've got a hoodie on and it's raining. She's going to hammer me. I just walked mud all the way through the house as well in my wellies to put myself on as a weight on pub staff or whatever. Anyway, good morning, Gary. Do you think that the club could have linked a ticket to Carlisle? Gives you a priority chance to get the West Ham ticket, thus giving us a bit more revenue. Well, they could, but they've got the bronze and the silver membership, which they have linked, which they've backed since the beginning of the season. They haven't just put those in place for the West Ham game. They've been there the whole time. People with a little bit of foresight, people who want to go to 6 games a season and no more, will have bought a silver or a bronze membership. That simple. And I do wonder if there are a few people now who are thinking, well, actually, if in the FA Cup we get to the 3rd round and get Liverpool at home, what's going to be the best way to get a ticket? It's going to be to have a bronze or a silver membership. You know, if you get a silver membership, you're saving money on your ticket price overall. It's basically a way of a loyalty scheme for the club. And unfortunately, football's changed. And these days, if you're a supporter that says, it's going to go to 6 games a season, there needs to be a structure in place for you to have that loyalty rewarded, but not so much as a season ticket holder. Hence, bronze and silver memberships. I saw season ticket holders complaining about an away trip. I can't remember where we were going to, because everybody got priority at the same time. Tickets didn't sell out. This is a one-off. It's a great conversation to be having. A sold out Sinsel Bank. Do I make it 10,800 supporters in the bank? I mean, what a night it's going to be. Win, lose or draw, they're always big nights. Even when we lost 7-2 to Liverpool, can you imagine what that would have been like? How the ground would have erupted when Eden and Monsma scored. Oh my God. I was there and it was dead silent when the ball went in, and it was bizarre. It was weird. These are the games that, as a fan, these are the emotional games you live for. The ones where all common sense goes out the window. All talk of where you are in the league, what you're doing here, what you're going there, it all goes out the window. But in answer to your question, Jason, I think there's enough in place, if I'm honest. And do you know what? I don't think selling tickets for Carlisle based on West Ham would have actually been entirely fair, because people who have got no interest whatsoever could have come along and gone, oh, well, I'll just buy a ticket for Carlisle. And actually, what would you have got? Another 300-400 people do it, £4,000, something like that. I think the way that the club do it now is the best structure that they can come up with to reward supporters, even though, like, who just go to 6 games a season. 6 games a season is not that many, is it? 1 a month tops. Now, I think I obviously am a season ticket holder, but I think for those, when I say part-time fans, I don't mean that in a condescending manner, but for those fans who work on a Saturday, for those fans who can't get to evening games and, therefore don't want to buy a season ticket, these memberships are actually a good idea. And I've never really spoken about them before, but I think this is the first opportunity that fans have got to go, actually, do you know what? Now I understand it. Steve Leach, I haven't got a ticket. If it's a sellout, great for the club. I'm at work anyway. I get when I can, UTI mates. Yeah, and again, it's that sort of pragmatism as well, isn't it, Steve, that I respect? Because Steve is a Lincoln fan of many, many years, and has been on regular basis, goes when he can, all that sort of stuff. Doesn't get a ticket for West Ham. You don't get him on social media going, I couldn't get a ticket. I mean, I saw one guy, and look, if it's you, I apologise. But one guy saying, well, I got my ticket because I'm a season ticket holder. It's a disgrace I couldn't get one for my girlfriend who can only make 6 games a season. Why didn't you get a membership? There's no point. If you only make 6 games a season, it's a scam. And I didn't want to talk about tickets. I really didn't. I think if you can only make 6 games a season, what a shocker that one of those is West Ham. Isn't it? Yeah, I mean, it could be Stevenage at home or away that she can make, but no, it's West Ham. I mean, that's coincidence. That's the sort of coincidence that the club unfortunately can't put a framework in for, in my opinion. Let's have a look. Sean, if Walker and House not fit, you think Vale will start? No, because he was 3 weeks away from fitness when he signed. So there we go. I was just looking through the questions. Unfortunately, my screen is just awash with water. So I can't really see what your comments are. So I'm going to disappear, not literally, just from your screen. But I just wanted to, I've talked about West Ham. I've fallen into my own trap. And Ben made a comment. What did Ben put? Let's put Ben on. Still think we can nick 6th at the end of the season. Strongest squad I've seen. Ability to change from the bench, looking strong at home. So there's Ben. I let Ben have his say. It's great, and he's got a good point. But when Ben and I are on the podcast and he says something stupid, well, not every time he says something stupid because I'll be doing it all the time. But when he says something, I do the QI thing. Wow, you've fallen into a trap. I've fallen into the trap. So Ben, you can do the QI klaxon. I've fallen into the trap talking about West Ham. When I came on to talk about Carlisle, I'll do an article about West Ham, but after that it's focused on Saturday. Because Saturday is a huge, huge game. And there's no must-win games at this stage of the season. If we go there, put a convincing display, our flair players look like flair players, and we win. 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, doesn't matter. You come away with a win from that. 3 wins on the spin at home. 7 games, I think it would be unbeaten. It's a great start to the season. And I tell you something, the start is hugely important. You can fall away. If you get 12, 13, 14 games in, and you're still tucked in that top 6, for me, you're in a great position. And I'd love to do the research, and I might do, to see how many teams have been relegated after being in the top 10, 14 games in. Very, very few. And for me, at this level right now, pessimist that I am, it's always about non-relegation first. That's what I always think. Get to that 50 points. I'm hoping that that's not on the cards this season at all. I'm hoping that on Saturday we go out, we put on a performance worthy of the supporters that come to watch League One football, rather than just come to watch Premier League teams when they arrive. And that's not a dig at anybody, but we need the emotion from the West Ham game, the belief and passion from the Sheffield United game. I want to see that every week. I want to feel that every week. We didn't last season. We felt it sometimes last season, but there wasn't the excitement. And I just feel this Lincoln City team's got excitement in it. Ali Maxwell, I go back to him, he says, when they find their groove, if they find their attacking groove, if we find our attacking groove and players like Rico Hackett and Danny Mandroyu and Ted Bishop start providing bullets for the likes of Tyler Walker and Ben House, who knows where we'll end up this season. Maybe we will end up back at Wembley in a playoff. Maybe this time we'll be able to take 32,000 instead of 3,000. And maybe, just maybe, by then people might have realised that if they invest in a silver or bronze membership, they'll get fucking tickets. Enjoy the rest of your day.